Pauline arose and listened. Her spouse was slumbering adjacent to her. The March sun was piercing through the ivory clouds. She glimpsed at the clock on the wall and jerked, anxious she might be behind schedule for work. Then she recollected that today was the 8th of March. Hence, to freshen up, sip coffee, and prepare breakfast before Mariska and her spouse woke up. Paulina cautiously emerged from beneath the blanket. However, Kostya woke up, stirred. "What time is it?" Without unveiling his eyes, he inquired. 9:30. Her husband sat up abruptly on the bed. "Relax. It's a day off? It's a holiday. Go to slumber," Paulina grinned. "Why did you leap up yourself?" Kostya scooped her up and nestled his nose into her neck. "Felicitations, my beloved woman, the mother of my offspring." "Well, let's say we have one child together," Paulina chuckled. "I'll go make breakfast, and you lie down some more. Whilst you're preparing breakfast, I'll head out for a jog. The weather's pleasant." Kostya tossed aside the blanket, left the bed, and walked barefoot to the bathroom. Paulina had grated the cottage cheese for the cheese pancakes. All that remained was to slice a banana into it, coat it in flour, and fry it in a pan. Soon the kitchen was filled with the delightful aroma of the curd. What a delightful scent! A tousled Mariska in shorts and a t-shirt emerged in the kitchen entrance, squinting against the intense light. A beam of sunlight pierced through the clouds momentarily, illuminating the kitchen with joy, reflecting off the metal surface of the kettle. Suddenly, Marussia pressed her palm to her mouth and vanished from the entrance. For a moment, Paulina stood as if stunned, then rushed after her daughter. "Marussia, unlock the door. Are you okay?" Paulina listened, then pounded on the secured bathroom door. She heard the sound of water running from the tap. "Marussia, unlock the door." Pauline banged her fists harder on the door. Anxiety engulfed her heart. Paulina drove it away, persuading herself that her daughter just had a stomach ache. Suddenly she gasped at the abrupt realization. Everything went cold inside. No, this couldn't have happened to Marussia, not to her. Graduating class, honor student, going to university. God, why? The aroma of burning, and Paulina rushed into the kitchen. Cursing, she scraped the charred cheesecakes into the trash can. That brought her back to her senses a little. "Okay, don't panic," she tried to calm herself down. When she heard the doorbell ring, she thought it was Kostya returning from a run and hurried to open it. She unlocked the door and saw a young man with a bouquet of vibrant tulips on the threshold. "Greetings, Paulina Andreevna. These are intended for you." He presented her with the bunch of flowers, grinning. "Thanks," Paulina expressed surprise and accepted the bouquet. "Please come in. Marussia is in the bathroom." The young man entered, slamming the door shut behind him, but he kept his jacket on. Paulina understood from his troubled expression that he was the cause of Marussia's problem. "So it's you," she angrily whispered. "You? Do you realize that I could have you arrested for corrupting a minor?" The young man blinked fearfully. "I've come to talk to you. I love Marussia, and I'm not going to avoid responsibility." At that moment, a pale and weary Marussia emerged from the bathroom. She glanced fearfully at her mother, then shifted her gaze to the boy. "You?" she asked the same question as Paulina. "And which one of you will explain to me what's happening? Why is she vomiting in the morning? How about you?" Paulina raised her voice and stared at the boy, burning him with her eyes. "Mother." "It's all right." Marussia extended her hands in a cautionary gesture and headed towards her chamber. "Marussia, return," Paulina called out to her. At that instant, the lock clicked, and Kostya entered the flat. "Oh, do you have an admirer?" Kostya gestured towards the bunch of tulips in Pauline's hands. "I hope you screamed with delight. It could be heard on the stairs." Out of delight, Pauline gasped with offense. She couldn't articulate the dreadful truth aloud, gasping for breath. "I adore your daughter, and I wish to wed her," he blurted out, blushing like a crab. "That's quite a declaration. I'm already envious of my wife," Kostya joked. Marussia is still in school, and it seems you are too. We're going to have a serious conversation. What's your name? Igor Temnikov. I'm here so you don't think I am. Remove your garments and enter the chamber. Paul, place the blossoms in the vase. I'll take a speedy shower and join you, Kostya commanded and vanished into the restroom. With Kostya's arrival, there was increased tranquility. Polina positioned the vase with tulips on the table, admired how vivid blooms with watercolor strokes invigorated the radiant kitchen, and returned to the cheesecakes once more. The sun concealed behind a veil of clouds, as though apprehensive of coming under the scorching palm. Soon, a mound of cheesecakes adorned the plate. Polina organized plates and cups on the table. Kostya entered carrying the pleasant fragrance of shower gel. "Oh, cheesecakes!" Marussia summoned the guest to the table. He shouted toward the room. "So what happened?" Kostya seated himself and scrutinized his wife. Polina couldn't respond promptly. Igor came into the kitchen. In the daylight, he appeared very youthful and bewildered. Kostya gestured towards the chair opposite, and Igor seated himself without lifting his gaze from the cheesecakes. Marussia had altered her outfit into a t-shirt and jeans, changed her hairstyle, and looked significantly better. Or perhaps there's nothing wrong. Demonstrating, Polina clung hopefully to that comforting idea. She recalled that she had forgotten to place the sugar bowl on the table and hurriedly went to the cupboard. "Paul, don't hurry." Kostya picked up 2 cheesecakes with his fork and placed them on the plate in front of Igor. "Why don't you take a seat?" He glanced back at Marussia, who was standing by the door. "I don't wish to," she replied. Polina cast an anxious look at her daughter. Is she afraid she'll vomit again? "You have no desire to consume anything else." Kostya gazed at his spouse. She nodded and exited the kitchen. "We shall partake of more nourishment." Kostya winked at his visitor and promptly devoured half a cheesecake. What occurred? He encountered Polina in the chamber and settled down beside her on the couch. "It transpired," she echoed, but Marussia and Igor materialized at the entrance, and Polina fell silent. "It's time to disclose the reason for your visit, young man. Why did you startle my wife so immensely?" Kostya addressed Igor. The guy cleared his throat. "I came to inform you that I take responsibility for what transpired, that I adore Marussia, and that I'm getting married," he blurted out, blushing profusely. "Is there any cause for such a rush?" Kostya asked with gravity. "Yes," Polina replied in place of Igor. "Our daughter is pregnant." "Mother," Marussia cried with teardrops in her voice. "Is that accurate?" Kostya clapped his hands on his knees and rose from the couch. "Do your parents have knowledge of your accomplishments, young man?" "They do. I informed them when Marussia disclosed everything to me." Igor endured the gaze of Marussia's father, blushing even more, right to the very tips of his ears. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Kostya turned to his daughter. "I'm not going to claim that it's too soon for you to become a mother. I won't raise my voice and scold you either. It's futile. Or do you want to undergo an abortion? Are you aware that it might result in you being unable to conceive again?" "Kostya, you're discussing our daughter." Polina became agitated. "Stay calm." Kostya gestured with his hand, halting her. "She will give birth," Igor replied resolutely on behalf of Marussia. "You're 17 years old." Polina could hardly restrain her hysterics. "And you haven't heard about contraception. Marussia, do you realize that you've discarded your life? You won't be able to continue studying. A child will demand all your strength. You won't be the same carefree girl. You will both get exhausted from problems, sleepless nights, and very soon you will detest each other." Pauline was trembling. Her eyes were ablaze with indignation. "Now, Pauline, don't shout. First, we have to finish school and ensure that no one discovers anything. We don't need unnecessary gossip, and she can continue her studies by correspondence." "You say that so calmly." Polina's eyes glistened with tears. "What should I do? Whip them with a belt? Or are you prepared to send your daughter for an abortion?" "Marussia will not forgive you." all her life she will reproach and blame if, in the future, she will not have children. Kostya began to lose his temper. Deity, wherefore? Polina wept and turned aside. I'm not prepared to transform into a grandmother at 37. Then, what funds are you intending to subsist upon? Pauline turned to her offspring again, but uttered more serenely, I'm going to toil. Igor lifted his chin. Toil? It implies that in the autumn you'll be conscripted, and Marusha will be solitary with the offspring. That's truly splendid. Polina's countenance blushed crimson. No, they won't, Igor muttered. He's ailing too. Polina gazed at her daughter's luckless fiancé with animosity. I'm not ailing. My father vowed to arrange a postponement. He's a military man. Behold, a lad with a brain. He's already contemplated everything. It was indistinct whether Kostya was bolstering Igor or mocking him. He'd better contemplate not impregnating our daughter, Polina said wryly. Pauline, it's not the most unfortunate event that could have occurred to her. The primary thing is that everyone is alive and in good health. If Marussia had fallen severely sick, that would have been a tragedy. Don't gaze at me like that. I stated it for comparison. I don't even wish to contemplate it. Kostya embraced his wife and peered into her countenance. Let's stay composed and address issues as they arise. We have a couple of months to prepare for the child's birth. Meanwhile, we'll meet Igor's parents and discuss everything. With the father, I don't have a mom, Igor said. I'm sorry. What occurred to her? You don't have to respond if you don't feel at ease discussing it. She had cancer. When it got really severe, she threw herself out of the window. Igor said quietly and lowered his eyes in embarrassment. I'm sorry, but that didn't give you the right to ruin my daughter's life. Polina snickered again. That's sufficient. Kostya pressed Polina against him. He arrived himself, admitted everything. You'll be a very attractive grandmother. No, do you hear yourself? Pauline discarded her husband's arm from her shoulder and turned away to the window. We have a spacious apartment. My grandmother is retired, will help us, suddenly said Igor. I will not give up Marussia and my child. Apologies, I did not want to spoil your holiday. No, you didn't. You gave me such a gift that it would make me weep. Polina couldn't help but be sardonic. Igor, you'd better leave now. Marussia, take me with you. We're waiting for your father, Kostya shouted after him. The information that a 17-year-old daughter is expecting a child is always an unforeseen and challenging ordeal for parents. And the finest thing they can do in this situation is to support and help, not to become adversaries to their children. At the discussion table, the parents concluded that Igor and Marussia would continue to reside as they did previously, each in their respective family, to evade public attention and rumors. Marussia's abdomen will not be conspicuous for a couple more months. Later, they will wed, and Marussia will relocate to Igor's residence and pursue her studies through distance education. Certainly, challenges and hardships will be unavoidable. However, dealing with a newborn is demanding for everyone, including more experienced parents. Whether Marussia and Igor will journey through life together, conquering all the challenges, or separate, relies on them. Parents are not innate. They become parents when a child arrives.